You're the girl that started with Dum Laga Ke Haisha. And what an unusual, unconventional choice that was, especially at a time when people didn't make such choices at the start of their careers. It's been now 8 years that you've been acting. I thought let's jump straight into it. What's the one professional decision that you've made in these years that you're most proud of?
That's actually quite a tough one because I feel like every time I choose a script and whatever love I get from the audiences or once I see the product and I'm like, okay, you went by your instinct and you did the right thing, I feel for me that professional choice kind of keeps on shifting. But if I think of specifically the last 1 year, I think one of the best decisions that I took was doing Badhai Do.
Yeah.
You know, I feel from Dam Laga Ke Haisha to Badhai Do, it's been quite a journey for me. And in every way possible, I feel like I got so much out of the film, you know, exactly the kind of love that I got for my first film. So I feel in the recent years, it definitely has to be Badhai Do.
But Badhai Do is an incredible film with a great performance and a great message. And I think most people that have seen it will agree that it's also one of those films that has a message but doesn't beat you on the head with it, which is just so important, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, look, I've always supported films that have a message, that have something more to say. But by the end of it, we all are here to entertain.
Yeah.
You know, we are artists. I want my audience to have fun. I want my audience to enjoy the 2.5 hours that they spend with me in the cinema. But it is very, very gratifying when they walk out with a certain amount of change of a mindset.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like in the times that we are living in, it is very important to stand by your belief system. It is very important for your art to kind of resonate with the times that we are living in. So I have in many ways, it could be Toiletic Prem Katha, Badhai Do, you know, or a Sant Ki Aankh, or a Bala, or Son Chiriya, any of the films that I have been loved and appreciated for, I feel like all these films have worked because they kind of have the right balance of entertainment with a bit of a message.
Yeah. So what's the process, Bhumi? I mean, when you're reading something that comes to you, or you're sitting in on a narration, what's the point at which you realize this is something I want to do, or this is something that I relate to? Is there a muscle that you use when you're picking what is next for you?
You know, honestly, I think the process is always different. You know, for Dam Laga Ke Haisha, I was just counting my stars and I was like ever so thankful because I got an opportunity to be an actor. There was no chance, you know, with the background that I had or the opportunities that were in front of me, or like, you know, as ma'am rightly said in my introduction, I truly feel that, you know, I'm not what a conventional Hindi film actor looked like. I feel like that's changed a lot over the last few years. But I feel like every time I'm reading a script or I'm hearing a narration, at some point, there is this excited child that starts jumping and I'm like, oh my God, I want to play this character. Oh my God, I want to be a part of this story. Because for me, honestly, the length of the part does not matter.
Right.
And I feel I've been applauded many times when I've not kind of conformed to कि ना ये picture करो क्योंकि ना ये full picture आपके ऊपर है या ये picture मत करो क्योंकि यार इसमें 5 ही scene है. But I have actually experienced it with a film like Son Chiriya when I actually entered on the 45th minute. Right. And everyone was like, but why would you do this film? There are like 11 male actors and, you know, you have like I literally had 9 scenes that mattered in the film. But it was just something about working with that director or being a part of that story. I saw an opportunity. I was like, Bhumi, if you shine in these 9 films, there's nothing stopping you. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. So I don't really have a formula. Till now, I've not understood the math behind why a film works or why it doesn't work. I purely function from a place of love for cinema, from a place of the greed of leaving behind a legacy of work that can be watched by generations to come. And every time I see an opportunity like so, I just jump at it.
Now, the choices you've made, like you said, you know, I'm guessing there are, and I don't know if it still happens. I guess now you've proved to be a bit of a deet, so I don't know if it still happens. But when you know, you're grateful for the opportunity to be offered something like Dam Laga Ke Haisha, but I'm guessing there are people who are telling you, are you nuts? Why would you do this film? It's your first film where you're going to put on all this weight and people are going to think that's who you are, right?
Absolutely. In fact, while I was going through that process, interestingly, so I was not allowed to tell anybody. I was like in an embargo that, because they were launching me and it was this unconventional film and, they put in all their might to kind of keep this a secret. So people in my personal life, while I was going through that transformation, because I had gained a decent amount of happy weight to portray that character, they kept asking me, what's wrong with you? And that is the strength that I kind of channelized into my character, because I was like, there's so much stigma attached to the way one looks globally, not just in our country. Because people actually came up to me and asked me that, is everything okay at home? Like, are you unhappy? Because that's what they correlate any kind of weight gain with. I was like, no, why can't I just be a happy girl, who's really enjoying her process through life? And I love food, I enjoy food, why can't I just be that? Anyhow, I channelized a lot of that energy into Dam Laga Ke Aisha, but I feel more than how I looked physically, people were not convinced that I'm from Bombay. And this happens till date. So every time, and it's actually happened at the start of my career. I remember I was speaking to a very famous personality from the media, and it was one of my first interviews with her. And she was surprised at the way I spoke, because she just thought that maybe I belonged to a part of India that I'm actually not from. And I was like, okay, that must have been one hell of a performance that I've actually convinced people that I am from that part.
The country, yeah. Then when you stand for something that is important, and you put your weight behind, you put your strength behind, films like Bala that you spoke of, and Son Chidi, and these are unconventional choices, unusual choices. When there's a conversation around, say, the brown facing in Bala, or the accusations of ageism in Sant Ki Aankh. We'll not get into why those happen, but does that make you feel, as someone who's actually on the other side of the argument, where you're actually trying to fight to sort of destigmatize those prejudices, does that become disappointing that that's what people take away, or does it make you question that, did we screw up, did we make a mistake?
I mean, I think it's a mix of both. There is a certain amount of realization that if I'm trying to create a democratic, artistic environment, then I should also be a part of the solution. Having said that, the truth of the matter is that in the commerce of the business that we are in, an idealistic world does not always exist. I would want to create that, but it doesn't honestly exist, because this conversation stands true for me from my first film, because I wasn't naturally the way my character in Dam Laga Ke Aisha was. I have always tried to transform. If I think of it personally, the greed that I have as an actor, I'm never going to stop taking up these roles. Am I not going to try and create more opportunities for other actors to be a part of it? 100%. But I'm not going to stop taking on these roles, because I'm an actor. It is my primary job to be able to play different characters. So I don't think I'm being dishonest to, or I'm doing a disservice to what I'm supposed to do. But yes, it would be a disservice if I don't create an environment that is equal and has more opportunities.
Sure. Just to rattle off some of your filmography: Toilet Ek Prem Katha, Shubh Mangal Savdhan, Sant Ki Aankh, Bala, Badai Do, Bheed. They're clearly films which are socially relevant films. Is this merely a coincidence?
I don't think so. For the first half of my career, I was like, no, these films are just coming on to me, but the truth is these are my choices. I think I have, I think it's inherently in my nature to give back. And I feel like the position that I'm at, I'm very fortunate that my work, my job, or my art gives me an opportunity to kind of give back, and this is kind of my way or my service to the society. And I feel like a lot of it comes from my upbringing, because I always saw my parents do the same through their own ways. And I have immense love for the country that I live in. I am a very, very proud Indian, and I always have been. So for me, to create, to have any kind of positive impact within my country gives me a lot of pride and a lot of pleasure. So I feel like I'll always continue doing socially relevant cinema. But having said that, I also kind of enjoy dwelling into Pati Patni or Wo, or like, some of the films that are going to come out, or, because for me, I want to be entertained while I am filming that film. Right. So even if it's a Bala or it's a Dam Laga Ke Haisha or a Sant Ki Aankh, all these films have had a certain amount of lightness to them while kind of conveying something very important. So I think that's something that I like dwelling in.
I'm going to talk to you about the entertainment in these films, but what I want to ask you is, do you think that socially relevant films, or films that have, a film like Toilet Ek Prem Katha, which was very important, which was speaking about something specific, do you think they have the potential to lead to change? And have you experienced that in the films that you've done, or through the films that you've done? Have you noticed real world changes that may have occurred post a Toilet, or post a Bala, or post any of these films that you did?
Absolutely. If I speak of Toilet Ek Prem Katha specifically, a film that I'm so proud of, it honestly was a career-changing film for me, because for me, Toilet Ek Prem Katha was like a re-debut, in somebody who was like the closest to who I am. But I remember when the script had come to me, India was not open defecation free. We were at a staggering 55%. And obviously, we had all government agencies trying their best. With the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, there was a massive change that had happened. But what we needed to do was we needed to kind of seep into the mindset that people had. Right. And when a film like Toilet came out, we actually saw that change, because in every little village, taluka, district of India, Toilet Ek Prem Katha was played, and they'd seen that content, and they were like, okay, this is my right. It is my right to have access to sanitization and good sanitary health. And we are very proud that, post the film, and the film was celebrated globally, post the film, we saw like massive change. So that was the first time I realized the power of cinema. The way it can influence a large number of people. And I feel like since then, I have kind of been on this journey. Even if I speak of Badhai Do, my latest film, after Badhai Do released, the amount of love the film received, I remember I was in a theater in Dehradun, I was filming at the moment, and there was this, there were a set of parents and their son, and they came up to me, and they were broken, they were howling, and he was like, this was my coming out moment to my family. So it can be something as small as that, and it can be something on a macro level, like what Toilet Ek Prem Katha did. But I feel the power that cinema has is immense, and it would be really, really great if we have more people exercising it to the best of their ability.
Have you felt like these films have had a sort of personal impact on you, that they've changed you in any way, maybe educated you? Did you know as much about, say, sanitation and public sanitation and all of those things?
Every way. I feel like the person I am today is a sum total of all the characters that I have played. I started off as, I would call myself privileged, because I was born into a family that let me do what I desired. I had great education. I was born in a city like Mumbai. So I would like to believe that, I was privileged. Yeah. But once I got into my life as an actor, I realized that, okay, I might be woke, but that's not enough. I wasn't woke enough. I wasn't sensitive enough. I wasn't empathetic enough. And my characters have made me that. Today, when, it could be the work that I did in COVID, or it could be Climate Warrior, or it could be my position with the UNDP. I feel all of it has come because of the films that I've done. Right. And all these parts have really shaped me up into a more responsible, empathetic human being. I mean, it can be the experience that I went through with Son Chiriya. I was 26, and I was playing a mother to a 16-year-old who was a rape victim. And she was nurturing a young girl who she was on the run with. I did not ever feel that I could feel so maternal about somebody. And that little girl is still a part of my life. Like, she's an everyday part of my life. She is my daughter. But that film did that to me. Right. It made me a lot more selfless. And I feel like with every film experience, I'm so fortunate that these movies have just, I would like to believe, my films have really humbled me down.
Right. It's interesting you say that, because what I was going to ask you is, and I think everyone will agree, film people, actors, have this sort of tendency to feel that they're changing the world. I mean that they're sort of the most important beings at the center of the universe. Did it make you feel? I mean, does doing films based on real people? I mean, Toilet was based on characters that really existed. Other films you've done. Humbled is actually the word that you use. Does it sort of make you feel, sort of recognize one's place in the world and kind of recognize where, as actors or just as normal regular people, sort of perhaps how small a place we occupy, whereas there are real heroes doing real things.
Oh, absolutely. We are not the real heroes. That's why calling myself a female hero or a heroine is something that really, really troubles me. But the fact that I get an opportunity to portray these real heroes on the big screen is something that I'm very, very grateful of. And you're absolutely right. I feel like as actors, we feel like the world revolves around us and we know we are God's gift to humanity, but we are not. And I feel that's the change that my generation has seen. When I see myself or my colleagues, I'm like, okay, this is the way to lead. I think what we need to be is we need to be good role models. We need to be a good role model to the future generations to come, and we need to be agents of change. Right? The change is not happening only because of me. I want to be a part of a larger solution. And that's the only way you can be humble and you can be grounded. Because for me, I don't think I'm the end all and be all of everything. And a lot of it has happened because of my cinema.
There are, of the films that you've done and of the films that we spoke of, there are some that went on to be commercially successful and some that perhaps didn't. And yet there were films that are regarded and remembered because they were interesting choices and they said something that was important and needed to be said, and they were made with purity and integrity. And yet, we understand that this is a business and there's a lot of pressure on actors. I mean, you can afford those choices because you're a viable actor. I want to ask you, when you're reading a script or when you're making up your mind, is that playing on your mind that is this going to be an accessible story? It's important, it needs to be told, it's about an issue that needs to be addressed. I'm getting an opportunity to be that sort of catalyst for for potential change, but will it speak to a larger audience? Is that a thought that's playing in your head, and is that a thought that one must entertain, if for no other reason, just so that that film travels?
I think you kind of pick your battles. There are some films that I do for myself. There are some films that I do for myself, but also for the love of the business. Like for example, when I did Sonchiriya was off cinemas in 6 days. It was maybe my first heartbreak because every film of mine was a blockbuster before that. I had a series of 4 films and they all were like, whatever. They did incredible numbers. They traveled really well. I was like on an all-time high. And then came Sonchiriya, a film I was so attached to because I gave that film 8 months of my life and I was like, this is it. Like, this film is really gonna be one of those that has like good content, etc., etc. But the film was off cinemas in 6 days and it really broke my heart. But the film still lives on. When people speak of my filmography, they speak of a Dam Laga Ke Haisha, and the next film that they speak of is a Sonchiriya. There are so many filmmakers that have given me work because they loved my work in Sonchiriya. So maybe it did not find a larger audience, but the film did find an audience. So I feel that was a very big learning for me. But by the end of it, honestly, when I'm reading a script, I don't know what works, what doesn't work. Yes, I'm aware of what the environment globally is. So I know like, okay, there might not be a lot of takers, but you always have that little hope that, you don't know what might change. Because, for example, for Dam Laga Ke Haisha, right, on paper, nobody could imagine a film like Dam Laga Ke Haisha working. Because on paper, the male lead, is not macho at all. There was nothing heroic about what Ayushmann was doing in the film. And I wasn't a conventional heroine. But the film broke barriers. So, you always hope that it works. But, as I said, Rajiv, by the end of it, I want to leave behind a legacy of good work. I want to leave behind films and characters and performances that can be watched through generations. I want to live on through my cinema. So I feel like that's the only thing that I think about when I'm choosing film.
When you do the rom-coms and you do the fun films, you did a film called Govinda Naam Mera last year, and I know you have a very exciting rom-com that you've shot already. Is that to balance it out? Is that because it's just fun and I also want to let my hair down and I'm a young girl who wants to look pretty and have fun on screen? How do you make those choices?
Look, I was 12 when I kind of told my mother I want to be an actor. And I wanted to be an actor because I saw like Sri Devi ji, I saw Madhuri Dixit, I saw these wonderful women create magic on screen. Okay, that was the singing, the dancing, the performances, all the varied characters. So for me, when I do a Pati Patni or Wo, when I did a Govinda Naam Mera, or whatever, a few films that are in the pipeline that will release soon, that's the child in me that's kind of fulfilling their dream. All the other work that I do for myself today is the adult in me that has that has different reasons of doing those films as well. So I enjoy the glamour bit of it.
Right.
I love it because inherently I'm that person.
Okay.
Necessarily at the start of my career, my films did not give me an opportunity to showcase that, but no complaints at all.
But you enjoy doing that, yeah?
I love it. I can sit in front of a mirror and I can do my glam for hours. It's therapeutic to me, and I'm not ashamed of saying that at all. Because of the films that I do, people think that, oh my God, I am a serious actor. Just because I enjoy vanity does not take away anything from my craft. So that's also something that really troubles me, but it's a longer conversation.
And I'm guessing you're also busting the myth that kind of film or that kind of role does not require serious performance or serious work to be put in.
Absolutely. Comedy truly is the toughest form of art, at least for me. You need to be on your toes. You need to have that timing. You need to have that meter. You still need to make people feel. So for me, when people are like, oh no, she's just singing and dancing around trees. No, that takes some serious talent as well. So for me, whether I'm doing a rom-com, I'm doing a film that's extremely glamorous, or I'm doing a film that's very heavy-weighted, I try and give in my 100% and the most earnest performance ever.
Bhumi, it's impossible to ignore the fact that world over, and certainly in India, the entertainment business, the film business, is in a state of sort of flux in a post-pandemic world. Films aren't working. The kind of films that were working aren't anymore. There's this whole question about whether, whether a certain kind of film should even be made for theaters anymore. I think it's fair to say that nobody knows anything at this stage. As an actor, when you're reading new material, when you're contemplating what to do next, when you're charting a career, how are you feeling? I mean, what's going on in an actor's head, given the current climate when no one knows anything? I mean, is one going to be relegated only to small screens, or only to, shouldn't say small screen, but only to streaming screens in a post-pandemic world if one isn't doing those event kind of tentpole films? I mean, are these genuine concerns for actors, for young actors like yourself?
I mean, there is so much noise about this around us all the time. We have our teams, we have people that care about our careers, that are constantly like, no, this is how the wave is going to be, just kind of succumb to it. But I feel like you kind of need to find the strength within. I completely refuse to believe that the big screen magic is going to die. It can't happen. It won't happen. A community watching experience cannot be compared to what happens at home. Am I not a supporter of, different digital platforms?
Correct.
I absolutely am, because it has been so disruptive that the content that we see on digital platforms it's completely challenged our existence.
Right. But what if theatrical becomes the exclusive privilege of a certain kind of film and a certain level of movie star?
I don't think that's true. There was a Norway versus Mrs. Chatterjee that just came in. It was a small film with like Rani Mukherjee, who we all love, and the film has done decent numbers. So let's not ignore the fact. The point is we need good cinema.
Sure.
I think that's what we are lacking. I feel like we have disappointed our audiences and we need to win their trust back. I don't think, I feel like it's a wave, right? Before, like a couple of years ago, it can be a Bareli Ki Barfi or some of my films, the mid-section films that... they didn't exist. You know, we were again stuck between, like, you know, I hate saying it, but like either you were a niche art house film or you were like this massive pot boiler. So that middle segment didn't exist. But then with good stories, with strong stories, with like talent with newer talent, we kind of recreated that segment. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen. We need good films. But Badhai though, for example, you know, we were the first film that came out after the lockdown on a 50% occupancy with no night shows, with Delhi completely shut. We did somewhere in the mid 20s. You know, at that point, we were like, oh my God, I don't know. But today, when I look at it at hindsight, there aren't the bigger pot boilers also that have done those numbers. So that kind of gave me the confidence that, no, if you have a good story, if you are true to what you're going to give your audiences, they will come in and watch it.
Right. So you're not worrying about numbers when you're reading a script. You're not worried about is this going to travel? Is this not? Is this going to go to streaming, straight to streaming?
Never, not at all. You know, like obviously the environment now is different. So, you know, the parameters of what we think, oh, will this happen? Will this go? But even back then, right, when my choices were different, I only went by the content and the material that excited me. And I feel the only way I will survive as an actor and I'll thrive as an actor is if I'm true to what I enjoy doing.
Sure. Well, you've also sort of walked the talk when it comes to, you know, what you do off screen, and you describe yourself as a climate warrior. That's something that you feel very strongly about and you put your strength behind. Can you talk about why that was important and sort of, you know, why climate became the cause that you needed to put your strength behind? I mean, was there a particular was there something that triggered that? Was that something that there's been a lifelong sort of concern over?
Absolutely. So, you know, when I was a young adult, I had a lot of climate anxiety, you know, because I always had these questions, okay, what happens when all our natural resources are depleted? How will I survive? I love my family so much. Will I be able to protect them? And as an adult, I realized that, okay, I have these questions, but I'm not doing enough about it. You know, I would be in like rooms full of powerful people. This is like a couple of years ago. And every time I spoke about it, people would like shun me away or shush me and be like, oh, this is not a real problem. But with everything that we are going through, I think it's very clear that climate change is real. And that's why we started Climate Warrior, an advocacy platform about climate change. And we've done some immense work. And I feel like this is not my battle alone. You know, this is a battle that all of us need to join hands in, because I truly believe that climate change is the largest looming threat that humanity will ever face.
And do you feel like you've been able to reach out to, I mean, and first port of call is always one's own, you know, colleagues and stuff. But do you feel like your colleagues get it? Do you feel like this is something that I mean, I don't think one can put the entire responsibility on your shoulders, but do you feel like enough people in your business care about the environment?
I think I have seen a change in the last few years, especially post the pandemic. You know, I think before that people were just ignorant and they're like, oh my God, no, some 3 generations later this is going to affect us. But the truth is, it is affecting us today. Right now, we all can feel it. So I feel like I've seen a certain amount of shift in attitudes, and people are taking up responsibilities. Like, I know sets that are going completely sustainable. You know, fashion is going sustainable in many, many ways. Are we doing enough? Absolutely not. But has the change started? I would like to believe yes.
That's an encouraging sign, actually. I feel like we have time for maybe one question. And are we taking questions from the room? But I'll quickly. Bhumi, now, where do you see your? I mean, is there a direction for, you know, for anyone that's not an actor? You know, people like us in 9-to-5 jobs, or people who are not you know, who are not necessarily in a creative field. There are goals. You say, in 3 years, I want to be able to buy a house. In 5 years, I want to buy an island, whatever. I mean, are you able to make goals for yourself in terms of where you want to go with, in what direction you want to go with your career? I don't actually mean sort of tangible monetary goals, but
No.
you know, this is the direction I want to go in. I want to be known as the next Sridevi, the next. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, no, I don't. I've really thought about it as like, you know, I can't even. I have an idea of what my life needs to be like, and that idea was kind of, that vision came on to me when I was very, very young, and I'm just trying to fulfill every fragment of that vision. Now, whether that comes with me being a global star icon or whether that comes with the work that I do, I don't know. I just want to live a fulfilled life, and I still can't pinpoint what gives me that satisfaction. So it's an everyday journey. So I literally have no 5-year plans, no 10-year plans. I just want to keep going. The only thing I want to be is I always want to be relevant.
Right.
I always want to be somebody who has an impact. I don't want to sound pompous, but I never wanted a normal life. You know, I'm asked this so often, don't you miss being normal? I'm like, no, I don't. Okay. This is all I ever wanted. I wanted people to know me for the work that I do. I wanted, as I said earlier, to be a good role model for many, and that's the life I'm living. And the day that's taken away from me, I think it'll be very tough for me to exist.
You mentioned global star. Is that a hope? Would you like to work outside? Would you like to?
Absolutely. Like, I would love to. I don't know when or how, at what stage of my career or life would that happen, but I feel like it will.
Okay. Well, all the best. If we have maybe 2 questions we can take from the room. If anyone has a question, you can raise your hand, and we will maybe pass the mic on to you. Yes. Seema there. If someone can pass the mic to Seema. Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Like Lady Killer coming up, and then even Afwa, I think your recent. So how do you enjoy that genre, and how has the choice over the years changed?
I feel like, you know, over the years, I've been very lucky that I've had a lot of different kind of genres come my way. But as you are absolutely right, thriller is something that's very new to me. But it's fun, you know, it's honestly a lot of fun because you're always kind of walking on eggshells. And I feel when you're doing a thriller, there's no right or wrong way of doing something. So I'm enjoying it. I feel that there's a lot more that I've still not tapped into. But at the moment, yeah, I have a couple of thrillers that I'm really trying to be very tight-lipped. But
Okay. Thank you. And the lady next to Seema. Yeah.
hello, ma'am.
I would love to know that any role or any kind of genre you find it very, very challenging for yourself and you feel that it's very difficult but I'm going to do it because you have a story.
I think action is something that I've still not tapped into. It would be very, I definitely want to do an action film because I feel like the work that I'll have to put in would be a lot more than just like my performance. You know, I'll get to learn a skill and like, you know, maybe really channelize the badass energy in me. So I think action would be a challenge and a challenge enough for me to enjoy it. I love purist songs, you know. So, for example, Momo Ke Dhage is my all-time favorite. That's the kind of music I personally love listening to. But you know, being a millennial, being a hardcore Bollywood lover, I can't get enough of my Tamma Tamma and like, you know, Choli Ke Piche and, you know, all the fun that I do. You need to watch me at weddings. I'm nothing like this, poised and, you know, giving these answers. But I love Bollywood music.
Thank you. I'm told that's all the time we have. But Bhumi, thank you so much. Thank you for the choices that you make, because I feel like those are films that have given us food for thought. Those are films that have made us sort of change the way we look at certain things. I mean, film like Badai Do, film like Toilet. These are incredible films that I think people are going to remember for a long time to come. And you know, I told you earlier, I think that what Nasiruddin Shah said famously is that it's not the performances, it's not the box office of films you remember actors' choices, and you've made some incredible choices. Thank you so much, and more power to make more such interesting choices.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Rajiv. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.